Somehow not a person falling off Hell in a Cell and crashing through an announce table. For 1 year, the movement of pro wrestling. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Whacked Out Wrestling on the most wonderful weekend of the year, Wrestlemania week. We're already seeing a lot of great independent shows that have gone through today and yesterday, but this is the week if you're a wrestling fan. And right now I am your host, Thomas S.K. Green. With me as always is John Roche, and we have our special guest, Metal Matt.
Hello there.
Yep. And this is going to be weird because we have to go with the elephant in the room this week, and that is, of course, the John Oliver sketch this week with the WWE. And that was honestly a case where we had an example of someone complaining about wrestling, and unlike Phil Muchnick in the 1990s and 2000s, you could tell that John Oliver loves wrestling. He's incredibly fair about wrestling. Not only did Oliver love wrestling, but probably multiple people on his staff love wrestling. They had the utmost respect for pro wrestling fans. They did it through a thing of, we love you, but here's some things you should be doing better with your sport. And hoped that wrestling fans were mature enough to want the best for the wrestlers that, honestly, every wrestling fan loves, even if we hate him. So naturally, people complained about Roman Reigns being compared to a pedophile.
Guess there's just no pleasing some people.
Yes. But did either of you happen to see most of the stuff on this one as well? So
I actually did see it. And I think we had sort of a side discussion about it on, like, when I saw it, where there were some other points where there's one thing where he shows a scene from Wrestling in Shadows, and he refers to how Bret was mad about his brother's death, and of course Wrestling with Shadows was back in 97. I think it was released in 98, but they shot it in 97. And I mean, obviously that's kind of nitpicking, but and I actually agree with the points that he made. And yeah. And I think you had mentioned something too about the whole what they mentioned with Roddy Piper and King Kong Bundy in particular.
Yeah. Honestly, the Piper and Bundy thing, again, the thesis statement was very strong that a lot of pro wrestlers do pass away earlier than most jobs on this one, but using King Kong Bundy, Roddy Piper, and other people they forgot, like Jim Neidhart or others, or Vader, or things like that, is a little bit of a problem because all of these people are seen as being poorly or dying young because they died in their 60s. That would be a very bad thing normally, but if you look at it on the other way, just 10 years ago during the Chris Benoit situation, and they paid on this one when they talked about Eddie Guerrero's death, it was seen as a bad thing because wrestlers were dying in their 30s and 40s. And the only wrestler who died in their 40s from that one beforehand would have been China for the legendary ones. And this also plays a role because if you look at them, it's not seeing the great things with the wellness policy. Yeah, it's just, well, they give everybody one random checkup a year. That's great. And they pay for rehab, but they don't give the reasons to go with rehab in the first place. It goes to the problems of, yeah, those are some problems, but in 10 years, the life expectancy of a pro wrestler rose from age 40 to age 60. That's a very good thing. 10 years and your life expectancy raises 20. That's amazing and needs to be lauded for people. And it also says when they mentioned Lance Naughton, or the former Lance Cade when he was in WWE, as being one of the deaths on it, and he did die very young at age 29. You also have to look at the fact that in WWE for the last, since the wellness policy happened, only 3 names since the wellness policy era died young in that one: Lance Cade, Umaga, and Rosie. And in Rosie's case, all signs say that he had nothing to do with drugs in his life, and probably his death was related to the fact that he was a big 350-pound dude and his heart gave out.
Yeah, I think Viscera was also like 43 when he died, but again, big dude whose heart gave out.
Yeah, and Viscera was also a weird case on that one because Viscera had been, it was less just that he was 43 when he died, and also he was super young when he was debuted as part of Men on a Mission, so he was in multiple eras of the time. The New Generation era, the Attitude era, the post-wellness violation era, and there was also the fact that when he was fired in the Attitude Era, it was allegedly because of drug issues there too. So there's also the case there as well. So there were, and that goes with a lot of the cases, and most of the big things were that independent contractor thing. And honestly, the independent contractor versus employee problem will be a very good question mark, because right now a pro wrestler has a lot of different taxes they have to pay. They don't pay for some travel and accommodations as much. So if you're not making a lot of money, a lot of it's going to finding food on the road, getting rental cars, getting hotel accommodations. With WWE only paying for a plane ticket, and the plane tickets don't work if you're so close to home for your next show. But it also ties into the fact with how many wrestlers are complaining not about these issues, but about the fact of their booking for the most part. And if you think about it, they could fix their booking with one go round and just handle both of these issues in one fell swoop, and it would be amazing if they tried it. All you'd have to do is simply say, hey, wait a second. If I'm technically an independent contractor, that means I can contract to any promotion I want to, and it's completely legal. So that would mean that if someone like Tyler Breeze or Naomi, 2 people, for example, who've been complaining about their booking in the last weekend on Twitter, had really wanted to, they could say, okay, Cody, here's my booking information, here's my price. I'm willing to work for double or nothing if you meet my price. And that would be a legal transaction. WWE would have no legal recourse to say, no, you can't work at double or nothing if you pay me this amount of money. And it would just be an independent contractor contracting their services out to another company, which is what independent contractors work with. Your thought?
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting thing, especially if WWE tried to basically push back on that, because then that would put them in a position they don't want to be in. That would put them in a position where they have to like settle it once and for all, like they would have to settle whether they want to have that control over them, whether they want to have the workers as full-fledged employees whom they have to pay, like give benefits and salaries and have some sort of like perks involved, or independent contractors where they can go to like Super Card of Honor or Double or Nothing or that AAA show that's going to be in the Garden in September.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, there's going to be a AAA show at Madison Square Garden September 15th. Tickets go on sale May 5th.
And that's going to be a very interesting move on it because, on the one hand, AAA has been a dumpster fire, but they have good working relationships with a lot of interesting companies like Impact Wrestling and All Elite Wrestling. So that has some benefits for some good workers there. And also the fact that people seem to forget that Lucha Libre is very good in any city with a strong Hispanic population. So this is probably going to be a very big success in AAA, as opposed to, say, Supercard right now this week, where the rumors are that there's very easy to get tickets for that show. And that'll be a good question mark as well, because the fact that it looks like the bubble seemed to burst when the Elite left New Japan, and this could be a good test to see if we get more MSG big shows, or if they just go back to WWE again. And even with stuff like AEW, it also ties into this Oliver show, because you also have the big problem where a big issue is how WWE isn't giving health care to its workers. Normally, this would be a problem, but at the same time, you also have the case where AEW promised health care to all their employees at their kickoff program in January. They said, we're going to make them employees, we're going to give them health care and benefits, and planned all this. And then within a few days, they walked it back to, nope, only the executive vice presidents are employees and get health care. Why people are not hammering this is the most markish bullshit, the most WWE bad bullshit. You want to support bullshit ever. Quite frankly, if you're going to support healthcare on these ones, you shouldn't just hammer WWE. You should be hammering AEW and saying flat out, no take-backsies. You promised healthcare to every worker on the roster. You can't say, oh, no, it's just for the executive vice presidents, which happen to be the Elite and Brandy, and basically reeks of, I got mine, fuck all y'all, we're just going with this now. And that is somehow scummier than everything WWE has done, because at least WWE admits they're evil in this case. They've never hinted they're going to give health care to all their workers, and they've never hinted they're going to be employees. To say, we're going to do this for all our employees, psych, just for me and my friends, is absolute bullshit.
Yeah, and that's one thing I did want to bring up, because I did see the John Oliver piece, because I'm a big John Oliver fan.
Yeah,
I've been following that show since that Trump piece that he did. Mm-hmm. And I love the show. Yeah, and I agree with a lot of the points he made about healthcare and things of that nature. But one thing I do want to bring up is that it's not just a WWE thing; it's an industry-wide thing, like with AEW.
Right.
Yeah, and that's also a problem where it's not just an industry-wide thing, but a lot of these cases are stuff that if you did these things in pro wrestling, it would destroy independent wrestling entirely. Like, for instance, the healthcare system in America is bullshit anyway. It's terrible for everybody on it. And if you had every promotion has to provide healthcare for their workers, you'd end up with, the second someone has one minor injury on an independent promotion, that promotion is instantly dead because they have to pay that person's surgery and all those things. No independent promotion has that type of money. And that's a problem where either you have one small-time wrestler's career is over in an instant for a minor injury, or one promotion that's over in an instant and 20 or 30 wrestlers lose their spot as a result. And those are some of the tough decisions between healthcare or no healthcare in this business. Things like are they employees or are they independent contractors? And this is one thing where Cody had said immediately, no, wrestlers will not be allowed to form a union in AEW because we know unionizing would kill wrestling. And they touched on this on the Oliver piece with Jesse Ventura trying to form a union in the 80s, and then Don Callis trying to form a union in the 90s, and both times it destroyed it on him. But that also needs to be mentioned that a union in wrestling would be bad for everyone. Quite frankly, if you're in a union, the biggest goal would be to get the most money for everybody in the union. And this is tied to Ryback when he supported unionization a couple years ago when he was fired. He said it was a problem that wins and losses dictate how much money it is, but the wrestling promoters dictate, okay, you get to win more, you get to lose more, and they can say, oh, you've lost this much, that means your values suffered, and you have to take this lower pay. And whether you have cases like, so does Kurt Hawkins make as much as Brock Lesnar, which is a question mark there, you also have the problem of why it would fail the union. Because inevitably you'd have to make it so that if wins mean you make more money and losses mean you make less money, you have to mete out wins and losses to everyone in a fair format, which would mean that everybody gets the most money. The whims of a promoter and a producer is not a fair way to do that. But at the same time, if you think about it, the meritocracy of let the fans decide who we want is also kind of bullshit if you think about it. The fans may have decided we want Becky Lynch to be in the main event of WrestleMania, but at the same time you think about it and it's like, well, Naomi's got more seniority. Why isn't she in the main event of WrestleMania? Naomi doesn't deserve to be in the main event of WrestleMania, but that's the point. The only fair way in a union to say, okay, we're going to give you this stuff, we're going to give you this much, we're going to give you this much, is to say, okay, pushes are being determined based on your seniority. And so if you have the most seniority in this company and you haven't had a big push yet, we're going to give you one big main event push so that you get all these wins, you get all these title reigns, and eventually you get all this money. And that may have some benefits, like you have, for example, Zack Ryder having the chance to finally get the world title reign that a lot of people have been longing for 10 years now. But it's all fun and games until you hear, sorry guys, we're really, really sorry about this. Because of union regulations and the fact that he's an 11-year veteran in the company, SummerSlam 2019, it has to be main evented by union rules by Primo fighting for the Universal Championship. Spoiler alert, he's going to win this one. We're really, really sorry about this. And that in itself is a problem there because you have the issue that you can't get those things. Eventually you have the problem where either you've got to fire people super early in their career if there's no chance they're going to get over, or you have to risk people at the main event one getting enough seniority so you're forced to push them. Your thoughts?
I can see where you're coming from there. One thing I was going to say, like when you said that they were going to have to mete out the wins and losses, that kind of reminded me of how one of the big complaints that people had about WWE's booking was that if you weren't in the main event, like if you weren't like in that upper card, if you were just like in a feud in the mid card, basically everything was all 50-50 booked because they didn't want to commit to one guy over the other.
Exactly. And ultimately that's one of the problems where eventually there is the case where people realize that always win, never lose makes new stars. And if you want someone to be a star, just make sure they win all the time. And that's another problem with this, where wrestling is a zero-sum game. for one person to succeed, someone else has to agree to fail in order to make that person better. And that is for one to win, another has to lose. And both of those things are very noble, and that's a good reason that someone who's a good loser should be able to make more money, but ultimately you have to have a case where you have some people who win the most get the choices. And that ties to the biggest problem, where the best tie-in would be, wait a minute, just let pro wrestlers join the Screen Actors Guild. It's been clear since The Wrestler came out in 2009 that that would be the perfect answer. Wrestlers are basically putting on a TV show anyway, where they have speaking lines and working in storylines anyway. Why can't they? But the only problem is that the Screen Actors Guild doesn't want them, which in itself is bullshit. And meanwhile, on this one, I've gotten word from Andrew McHale that we have the Veterans Committee picks for the WWE Hall of Fame this week to finish it up. And alongside the already mentioned Buddy Rose, Luna Vachon, Wahoo McDaniel, we have former WWF President Hisashi Shinma, founder of MSG Network Joseph Cohen, Primo Carnera, Professor Toru Tanaka, S.E. Jones, and Bruiser Brody. Kind of surprising that for some of these names, most surprising being Luna Vachon as a Veterans Committee pick, since Luna was still relatively young enough that you could probably do a good pick anyway, so it is pretty good there as well. And it's surprising on those because I heard conflicting reports that Jim Barnett may or may not be part of that group as well. So I'm not sure if he is or if it's been announced that he isn't. But yeah, it is those ones where you have the question marks of how a lot of these things should be done. And it's going to be more interesting when you consider that all of the biggest promotions could have these things. You can't do it for, say, Extreme. Extreme's totally really extreme, man. Extreme! Out of some guy's basement or VFW hall. But Impact is run by Anthem Sports. You've got AEW run by the Khan family. You've got Ring of Honor run by Sinclair Broadcasting. You've got WWE, who is WWE.
Right.
And then you've got Bushiroad, who runs New Japan. All of these are very big corporations. They can absolutely pay for health care for their employees. So that really wraps up Oliver's and stuff. So let's go through with the rest of them. But since we have these ones, we're going with the songs of the week, and we're trying to get money just like everyone else is. So here's the first song of the week for our new sponsors. Please give us money.
I'm a bottler, but believe me, it's no bed of roses. But with all the different size packages on the market today, they keep me on the hot seat. Oh, you think you've got it tough. Well, in my territory, competition makes more deals than a riverboat gambler. I'm really on the hot seat.
Move over, fellas, and I'll join you on that hot seat. In my plan, I've got all your problems and more besides. Make the wrong decision, and there goes profit. Make no decision, and there goes sales. It's a tough seat.
It's a rough seat.
It's a hot seat.
Here we sit and daily tangle with problems really rough to wrangle with, yet we can't see any other way. With our management decisions, making day-to-day revisions, it's here you'll find us each and every day. We call it a hot seat. It's always a hot seat, where all of the big red hot decisions got to be made. Should we make a killing today and throw the gold away or look for the long view of the tree? We're on the hot seat. Hot seat, there's a lot at stake and you gotta make the grade. When you're on the hot seat, there's only one rule. Sitting on the hot seat. Play it cool, play it cool, play it cool, play it cool. We accept the proposition that in this age of competition, we need for proper packaging and price. We're using all our talents to keep a proper balance, but a little added profit would be nice. It's always a hot seat where all the big red hot decisions got to be made. Should we make a killing today and throw the future away or look for the long view of the trade? We're on the hot seat, the hot seat. There's a lot at stake and you gotta make the grade. When you're on the hot seat, make sure on the hot seat that you're not just playing the fool. Sit on the hot seat. Sit on the hot seat. Sit on the hot seat. Everybody's wrong. On the hot seat, there's only one rule. Sitting on the hot seat.
That was the first of the songs of the week this week to keep going through each of the shows, and that was Hot Seat by Coca-Cola. Give us money. We like money. And that goes to the first of this week's three big previews for it as we go to NXT Takeover Brooklyn for, don't call it Brooklyn because we decided Brooklyn's the SummerSlam show. And this is a big deal with the first Night of Champions in NXT Takeover right now. And that's and we've got 5 big matches going through, and it looks like it's a huge card as it goes through. Let's go with the first one on this one, where the tag team match for the NXT Tag Team Championship. You have the winners of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, Aleister Black and Ricochet, getting a match with War Raiders of Hanson and Rowe. Any of you guys' thoughts on this match? Matt, for example?
Yeah, first off, sorry I went out there for a bit. My internet connection crapped out on me.
No problem.
But yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't watched NXT in so long. But as far as who will win, I'm going to go with War Raiders just because it feels like Ricochet and Aleister Black are just kind of going to be on the main roster from now on. It would not surprise me if they gave Black and Ricochet a little reign just because, but I do think that War Raiders do end up winning.
Yeah, this seems like it's one of the most telegraphed matches on it, if only because it's pretty clear. Aleister Black and Ricochet are going to the main roster. The only question is, are they going to be on the same brand, or are they going to keep them as a tag team? Or after WrestleMania, will they just let them go their separate ways and just be singles acts again? But either way,
I'm hopeful singles acts again because Black and Ricochet really aren't that bad of a tag team. But Aleister Black is one of those characters who does not need anybody. He needs to be his own man.
Yeah, and honestly, that's really the problem. Where sometimes you have a good work for it, but even if you go with an odd couple on it, there's really no good thing that connects these two. They're not that much of polar opposites, so they can't be on it. They don't work as a tag team on those ones. The only thing you can do that can connect these two completely different personalities, and not even different like their opposite personalities is they both have a lot of tattoos and they're really good at this wrestling thing. And I assume that's a little bit, but this isn't exactly like a classic tag team in the making here. Ricochet's not really that as dark and gritty and cool as Aleister Black is. And Aleister Black doesn't really need to be meshed into a fan-friendly, high-flying type on it. Just let Black be Black and let Ricochet be Ricochet. And that goes to the second match where we have the even less watched NXT UK one, as the WWE United Kingdom Championship is on the line as Pete Dunne faces coming up next on stage. Put your hands together for Walter.
Yeah, I think I brought this up last time I was on. It will answer a very important question I've had. Can Walter chop a man's chest until it turns black when his fingers are bent all the way back?
Exactly. And honestly, this one has a lot of question marks as well for it. Like, it seems like Walter is someone who's at the level where you could probably beat Pete Dunne for the title, but the $64,000 question here is not, is Pete Dunne going to lose the title, but rather, is this Pete Dunne's swan song in developmental, and is he going to be promoted after WrestleMania? Because
personally, I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I think it is time for Pete Dunne to move on to the main roster. But I can also see it where they just have him be on the UK brand forever.
Yeah. Honestly, it's going to be a good question mark because all three of British Strong Style are ready. Trent Seven's never going to be truly a big star anyway, but Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne have it. They're ready for their close-up. And if it means that Trent Seven goes up alongside them, then so be it. I mean, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne are the future of this company. You gotta let them fly. So ultimately, it's going to be the question mark where I'm thinking Walter gets the victory here, so they can run with Walter and the European Union, or we can call them we can say they're ring camp, but we can't call them ring camp as well, because honestly, my pick is that Dunne and the Mustache Mountain go up after WrestleMania. It seems like it's time for them, and it just is ready for it. Your thoughts, Roche? I
can definitely see that possibility. It wouldn't surprise me if this is basically sort of a Pete Dunne's curtain call for NXT UK.
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit I haven't really watched much of it myself, but I mean, it'd be a hell of a high note to go out on.
Yeah, and it'll probably be a good match because they don't usually have a lot of United Kingdom title matches on the NXT pay-per-views, but every time they do, it is amazing. Like, the whole thing that made Pete Dunne's landmark reign start was because of how awesome that Pete Dunne-Tyler Bate match was just over a year ago. So that also says how ready this guy is. And then you go to the NXT women's title match, and this one seems to be, I'm not sure how they go on it because I just don't know what they do in this case. You have Shayna Baszler, Io Shirai, Bianca Belair, and Kairi Sane fighting for the NXT women's title. And the big thing to me on this one is it seems like Shayna Baszler's losing the title here so she can get the call up, but I don't know if there's other people going up as well in this match. Like, right now, my gut is telling me Bianca Belair wins the match, not because Belair's the most deserving person in the match. She may be the worst of the four right now, which is not saying that bad on Belair because of how Baszler, Shirai, and Sane are all very, very good. But it's also the case where it just seems like Belair's ready to be the franchise player in the NXT Women, and it's obvious Shayna Baszler's going up after WrestleMania. The only question is if Sky Pirates go with her or not.
Let me ask you guys a question. Why wasn't this Shirai and Shayna one-on-one?
Honestly, like I said, that's really what it ties into, because I don't know if they're going to go with Sky Pirates going up to the main roster. And if that's the case, then you have Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler both get their final bow in there, and Shirai gets her final bow as she gets called up to be Sane's tag team partner. And if that's the case, then you have Belair in it, as she's not ready for the main roster, so she's perfect to be the NXT Women's Champion. So
honestly, the thought of Bianca as the champion, it makes me want to watch NXT even less than I already do now.
Yeah. Well, they've managed to go with her undefeated streak more than Asuka's did, so.
But is anyone ready for Bianca Belair?
That is the question mark. And honestly, it's going to be the big one where it seems like Sky Pirates are ready to be put into this tag division on it, but the question is, are they going to make them NXT's core tag team, or are they going to call them up to the main roster? And even then, we'll go into that when WrestleMania happens, because the women's tag division is that I don't know what they're going to do. I just don't know. I could see Shirai and Sane being NXT's core team and the one team that could be Bayley and Sasha's feud on this one. I could see him going to SmackDown and being the foil to Fire and Desire and the Iconics. I could see him anywhere, basically, right now. So, gun to my head, I'm picking Belair gets the title, and all three of the others get their send-off next week. So that's where I'm going with it. You guys?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Bianca as well. I don't want her to win because I'm not a fan of hers at all. She just comes off as a Sasha Banks ripoff, in my opinion. But yeah. I think out of the four, I think she does end up winning, because I think Sky Pirates do go into the main roster as a tag team. I think Shayna does go on. Honestly, Shayna should have been up a long time ago. But the question I have is, if Shayna does get called up, do Marina and Jessamine go with her?
Honestly, I think they do go with her. And honestly, that's kind of a Greek tragedy on this. Both of the other two horsewomen are going to get the fast track when they're clearly not ready for prime time. And it's almost a tragedy there, because Jessamine Duke could probably be a really, really good pro wrestler if you just gave her a year or two more in the Performance Center. Mm-hmm. I'm not convinced on Marina Shafir yet, but she probably could be very good in the role. The one plus is the rumors that Shafir would be going with the Undisputed Era to go with her real-life marriage to Roderick Strong, but even that would be a good question mark there as well, because both of them aren't good yet, but they are just good enough to know that if you give them a year or two, they'll be really special. And honestly, that's kind of like Belair on it, where she's not good yet, but in another year, she's going to be awesome. So it's definitely a very good question mark there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you guys have said, that basically it seems like Baszler's going to get called up and Sky Pirates are going to be doing their tag team thing, whether in NXT or on the red or blue brands. But that process of elimination, that leaves Bianca Belair as the most likely person walking out with the belt.
Yeah,
which is fine. I mean,
yeah.
What if they plan on vacating it, which would be ridiculous? Oh yeah, God, they're going to vacate it, aren't they?
It's likely.
Actually, no, they're not going to vacate it. They're going to hold it in abeyance.
Yes. Well, there's also a chance that they just have Baszler keep the title and look mean with it anyway, so they could also do that as well. But the only question is, I do think that Baszler's losing the title anyway, but even if Shirai and Sane go up, there seems to be another good possibility of the San Jose NXT Takeover has been announced for June, and given that San Jose is Bayley's hometown, it's perfectly likely that they could be building around the Boston Hug Connection versus Sky Pirates for the women's tag team titles. There is the first big women's tag NXT match, so there's also that possibility that Shirai and Sane go up in 2019, but not right after WrestleMania.
Right.
And if that's the case, you have a chance for Shirai or Sane to win the title as well. Then you have the North American champion.
Can you just call an audible and have Candice LeRae win the title?
Honestly, it seems like it would be a good one based on her skill, but this will also tie into later on in this one because Candice LeRae has been very good as a wrestler, but she's still Johnny Gargano's wife on NXT, and she needs to prove why Candice LeRae is so awesome and not just she's awesome because she's married to Johnny Gargano. So I could absolutely see Belair versus LeRae as a very good feud for San Jose, but it's not a right now feud, if you will.
Right.
Then you have the North American title on the line as Velveteen Dream takes on Matt Riddle. And this is going to be, I'm already giving it a bro out of 10.
Bro.
Mm-hmm. And this is another one where it's going to be a big question mark here as well, because I could see Dream staying in NXT because he just seems like his run won't be complete until he holds the NXT title aloft. But at the same time, it's WrestleMania, and WrestleMania is WrestleMania. So with how they've clear-cut NXT in the last few months, ever since the fans of the authority thing, and that Johnny Gargano is presumably staying in NXT, spoiler on these ones, after this Ciampa injury, it seems like the week after WrestleMania is going to need at least one big NXT call-up, and I'm honestly expecting the biggest call-up they're going to have in the quiver to be Velveteen Dream goes up. So it should be Dream who wins, but I'm picking Riddle for that reason. You guys?
It seems pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's gonna. Oh no, wait. I was gonna say it was gonna be a 2 out of 3 falls match, but getting wrong match. I'm getting ahead of myself there.
Yeah. And you, Matt?
Oh, hey, Mox is here.
Hey, Mox.
Moxie.
I was worried I'd gotten you mad over the last week. It's good to see you here.
What's up?
Not much. We're just.
How long have you been here, by the way? I feel kind of awkward.
Yeah, a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Always great for the WrestleMania previews on it. So the matches we've gone on for so far, Mox, would be War Raiders versus Black and Ricochet. Your pick?
War Raiders.
Yeah. Pete Dunne versus Walter. Your pick?
Walter.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Dunne goes up after this show or not?
Oh Lord. No, not yet.
Baszler, Shirai, Belair, and Sane. Who do you pick?
Just going with my heart here, either Sane or Shirai.
Who do you think goes up after the match?
Out of the 4, I guess Shayna, if I can only pick one. I could see them maybe
You can put as many as you want as in it. So,
can I say none?
Yeah, if you think none go up, absolutely.
The most likely would probably be Shayna, but I don't think any of them are coming up quite yet.
Yeah.
NXT's in a real, and we've discussed this in the last couple of weeks, in a real weird pattern or weird where I don't think we're going to see as many after WrestleMania, like the 2 nights afterwards, call-ups that we've been seeing. For one, we had the 6 a few months ago, and then we did it again.
Yeah.
And now we have like the Ciampa injuries and stuff. And
yeah, it's going to be a question for the women's match specifically because of the fact that one, it's post WrestleMania, so they're probably going to have at least one big call-up on per show on it. And since they really haven't hit the women that much, they took Nikki Cross, who hasn't done much. They've taken Lacey Evans, who hasn't. But in the big 4, they didn't take any women. So
I swear on everything holy, if Ronda leaves after WrestleMania and they replace her with Shayna, I'm going to bash my head into a wall.
Yeah, but that's going to be the question because I could see Baszler going up in this for a women's big one. I could see Shirai and Sane being called up in this for the tag team division for Sky Pirates there. Heck, even part of me could see the hot take of them saying, well, Belair's really good and she's ready for a close-up. Street Profits are in the right. Yeah, these guys aren't going to be big stars, but let's just call them up to the main roster and let them be low carders on it. And Belair could be a good manager for them if that happens. So I could see any one of the 4 getting the call after WrestleMania. And finally, Dream versus Riddle. Your pick, Mox?
Bro.
Yeah. That would absolutely work because either Dream's going into the NXT title picture or Dream's going to be the big call-up for post-WrestleMania. It's one of those 2 things that's happening. But either way, bro. Mm-hmm. And then the big one, 2 out of 3 falls for the vacant NXT championship. No clue on whether it can win in a knockout as well. As we have the battle for the first Triple Crown champ, Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole, baby. And who's your thoughts on this one?
Who are you asking?
Yeah,
anyone. So
honestly, I feel like my gut tells me that this is going to wind up. It's only fitting that with Tommaso Ciampa as having vacated the title, it would sort of make sense for Gargano to get his best frenemy's title.
Yeah. And honestly, the fact that all the rumors circulating are that Vince was going to give Gargano the call-up, but after Ciampa's injury, Triple H said, we need to keep Gargano, makes it pretty much etched in stone. Gargano's going to get the call-up. Or Gargano's going to get the title, I mean. But it does lead to the same question that, does Undisputed Era get the call-up?
I mean, it's tough to say because both guys deserve to be called up. Both Undisputed Era and Gargano need to be called up. I'm going to go with Gargano on this one because that's who I figured was going to win the title anyway before Ciampa got injured. But I hope that it's a short reign because Gargano needs to be on the roster by SummerSlam, at least by SummerSlam. There's no reason for him not to be on the main roster.
Yeah. Honestly, it goes to the same thing on it where part of me thinks that I think loser of this match is going up. And if Cole goes up, then Dream is staying. If it's Cole wins the title, then it's Dream Cole for the going into SummerSlam on it. And if Gargano wins, I don't know who'd be the next choice there. So, because it's Gargano's at the point where he's pretty much done everything you need to do except get to see him hold up aloft a pretty title. So that's going to be a question mark there as well. And then
I have a sneaking suspicion that Velveteen Dream's not going up until once it gets called up, either they can call him current or former NXT heavyweight champion.
Well, it could be a question mark because there's also the X factor here that with Velveteen Dream, if you're going to give him the NXT title, you'd be doing it because you're planning a huge push when you finally give him the rollout. But
yeah, that's what
if you're going to give Velveteen Dream a huge push when you're getting the rollout, you also have to keep in mind that you have the chance for him to get the biggest push possible of youngest world champion in WWE history. And as long as Velveteen Dream wins the title before the TLC pay-per-view, he can beat Randy Orton's record. And that'll be a bigger rollout for Velveteen Dream.
I don't know. It's just something, like I say, just a suspicion. Probably more on the lines. What I'm looking at it as, and I know there's like things out there that might conflict my thinking, but Triple H rewarding him. Yes, he's already won a title, but to get the title before main roster.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. And
yeah, and I
just something about it, just like, hey kid, stick with us, just we're biding our time. You're going up to the main roster, but you're going to go up, as like Kevin Owens did as current champ, or as many others have as former champ.
Yeah. And honestly, Dream getting the title would be perfect because if you think about it, one of the worst stats in NXT that's glaring on it is Sasha Banks and Bayley. That's the answer. And the question, who are the only two wrestlers at any sync level of NXT who were rewarded for their stellar character work by being allowed to get to win the big one? And that is just sad for NXT with all the great characters they had. And pretty much every other wrestler in NXT was either an indie darling who finally wins the big one there, or in the case of Bo Dallas, the only one who didn't on this one, someone who did all his stellar character work after he won the NXT title.
Well, there's also Big E.
Yeah, Big E is a good point there as well. So it's a question on how good the character work was because he had the 5 count, and it's a good possibility there. So I'll give you Big E as well, but even then, that's still 3 champions of any level. Not very good for NXT.
Yeah, this would be putting the belt on Patrick Clark would literally be against the grain for what they've been doing the last few years. Use the term indie darlings. Mm-hmm. It's a homegrown, contestant in that reboot of Tough Enough. Mm-hmm. And look what they've done, and that's another reason why somewhere in Paul Levesque's mind, dude, you're just hold off. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that like he's probably having that conversation with Patrick Clark and Vince. Like, let's just wait here. Let's just wait.
Yeah.
Because Triple H.
Business.
Yeah. And it's honestly a good point out there on it when you also bring the Tough Enough thing up, because you'd think that Vince McMahon would love to have the knowledge of this person was once like you guys. He was a tough enough kid He dreamed big, and now he's the world champion. And since Tough Enough started 18 years ago, there's a person on our show right now who wasn't even born when Tough Enough existed for its first season. And in that time, The Miz is the only Tough Enough graduate to win the big one and win the world title in their reign. And it's also not just with Velveteen Dream on this season, but it's another reason to feel bad about the Asuka Charlotte situation on it, because it looked like the Fire and Desire breakup would have paid off in Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville facing Asuka on it, and then you'd have one of the two people being another Tough Enough contestant having a chance to win the big one of their gender's title.
Wait,
so, yeah.
How young is John? John?
I'm 38.
Okay, I was
I'm assuming they're talking about Metal Matt.
I thought
he's older than 18 years old.
Oh, I thought he was younger. My mistake.
No.
I'm 23.
Oh, well, my mistake there. This is one of the problems of not knowing much on these things. So,
anyway, because I thought I had a hunch you were talking about Metal Matt. Like, no, and I knew John's age.
Yeah. Well, I'm trans age, so I'm actually about 3.5 years old.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Oy.
Mm-hmm.
My prediction for the match that started all this, I guess, would be Gargano.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, it's kind of weird on it with Gargano, because Gargano had his call up on the main roster on it. He probably should be on the main roster. But
Dream has no memory of that.
Yeah. But at the same time, Gargano deserves to be the NXT champion. But at the same time, it loses something if Gargano didn't go through Ciampa to do it.
Yeah.
The Gargano didn't go through Ciampa to do it factor would also be tied with, if Gargano wins the title, he got the title that everybody wanted, but he didn't beat Ciampa to do it. If Gargano doesn't get the title, you have the fact that Johnny Gargano is basically the NXT Tommy Dreamer, and Tommy Dreamer was not supposed to be the guy to win the championship. He was supposed to be the lovable loser who always came up just short, and even if he finally had his grasp of the big one, he somehow pulled defeat from the jaws of victory. So
I was gonna make one analogy, but it's the same analogy, just different teams and players. It's like the Patriots finally winning the Super Bowl in 2001, but it wasn't Drew Bledsoe as the quarterback.
Yeah. Well, more specifically, it would have been, I would have said it more like, if the Boston Red Sox won the World Series in 2004.
Super Bowl. Shit.
Yeah. If the Red Sox won in 2004, but say the Minnesota Twins beat the Yankees in the ALDS, and so they beat the Twins and then beat St. Louis.
Okay, nothing like or when you guys noticed I was on, you said something about me being upset with you this past, like if I say something like but that shit right there, that will piss me off, because fuck a bunch of that noise.
Yeah. Basically, it's the same thing on it, where you win the title, but you didn't go through your biggest rival to do it.
Yeah.
As a counterpoint, I do feel like if when Ciampa comes back, if Gargano still has the title by that point, you pretty much have an instant feud right there. Like, you have an instant feud with an instant storyline. One of the classics. It's Ciampa coming back to win back the title he never really lost.
Well, I think when and if Ciampa comes back, Gargano's already going to be on the main roster, and Ciampa's going to debut on the main roster.
Again. Yeah, because keep in mind here, Ciampa got the fusion surgery, and from what we know, the fusion surgery takes you out at least 18 months to 2 years. If Johnny Gargano is still in the main roster, is still in NXT in 2001, that is just the biggest missed opportunity in WWE history. There is no way Gargano would still have all this momentum and heat if he's still in NXT in 2021.
Yeah, I didn't know what kind of surgery he'd gotten, so yeah.
There's talk that he might not ever come back, so that's how severe it is.
Yeah, and given that Jason Jordan had the fusion surgery and it looks like his career's over, that is a very realistic thing as well.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
And Ciampa's a lot older, a lot more miles on his body than Jordan in the ring, and you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So basically, it's like it's not going to be something where Ciampa can come back for this title reign, or possibly ever until Gargano wins the world title and Ciampa comes in to shake his hand. So
yeah.
But that also goes with the NXT matches, but it's also WrestleMania weekend. So the biggest question is, who do you think the big person at ringside is going to be this tonight? We've had a few big ones with Bobby Roode and Kota Ibushi a couple years ago, with Drew McIntyre shocking everyone by revealing he came back to WWE a couple years ago. And there's always at least one, look who we got, guy or girl to come in. So who do you think it's going to be this year?
Kushida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see.
Yeah, considering he's apparently been in the Performance Center a couple months, it seems like they were prepping for something big on it, and he's the only guy who really fit on it. Even with the news that, continuing with the John Oliver stuff, WWE sees the issues with John Oliver's show and promises to do more things and do things that are more noble and more good for the wrestling as a whole. Oh no, they're in talks with fuck Canoe.
Fuck a bunch of that noise. Fuck Canoe, fuck everything about Michael Elgin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit. Oh yeah, I remember. I think I told you about that.
Yeah, you told me. So.
Oh good lord.
Man, and I was celebrating, like, because you guys know I've watched New Japan, like, yay, I can finally watch New Japan without having to turn it off or mute it during his matches, and I'll be damned the very next day WWE's and talk like, son of a bitch, can I not catch a break?
Yeah, I mean, it's like Triple H. The independent wrestling scene is not Pokemon. You don't gotta catch them all. You can let this guy go off into some shitty VFW halls in St. Louis. That's
do you
not
think? Do you think? And hear me out here, since this is where, like, the pipeline seems to be working. AJ Styles is excluded. People they bring in normally 99% of the time go through NXT. Don't you think Triple H knows, like, what would happen if he brought Fuck Canoe on NXT TV?
It's not even just what would happen on NXT TV. You've got a roster full of people who'd probably be pissed at him. And it's not like Triple H can't know on this one, because Elgin did admit that he pissed on a woman without her consent in a shoot interview with Kevin Owens inside the same shoot interview. He must know about these things. And that's even before he became radioactive last year.
Yeah, that was
that guy in NXT in front of the most smart fans you have, the fans who know damn well what Fuck Canoe is, who would be the most likely to go to that Elgin heat of, we know what you did. You're not welcome here. And it's at an art college. Art colleges, for fuck's sake. The most You will not find a bigger amount of social justice warriors than you will at an art school. And you're putting this guy in that. They're gonna eat him alive. It's almost glorious to think of how they eviscerate this dude. It's so much. This guy will be destroyed the second he's in Full Sail Live. And every fan who knows a thing about this knows that. It's gonna be. I almost want to see it happen just to see how destroyed they do this. It's that bad. And God knows he'll deserve every bit of it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like this. And all of this, they're willing to go through this one for a guy who, at best, can be called the better version of Bull Dempsey.
I started to bring Bull Dempsey up.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just in the same reference you were.
Yeah.
And Bull Dempsey was fun though.
Yeah, and Dempsey at least seems like a pretty good guy. So
yeah,
at least say I'd rather exist with that dude. So yeah, bring the dude back. Much better than Fuck Canoe.
And that ain't no bull.
Yep. Well, it does work because Elgin is a load of fit, so.
I'm glad, like, everybody, because I just randomly one day called him Fuck Canoe, and, like, everybody's picked up on calling him Fuck Canoe.
Well, it's just necessary on this one because, yes,
well, I was kind of, like, I wanted to call him, like, a douche canoe or... And like, no, that's like too good for him. What a fuck canoe. Like just, and I just put like fuck face, fuck knuckle, and douche canoe together and just fuck canoe. And now everybody calls him fuck canoe, and I'm okay with that.
Well, at the very least, that's the difference because at least Juice Robinson, he may be a fuck knuckle, but he at least seems like a good person. He's not a fuck knuckle, but his heart beats blood and not a mixture of vinegar and water that can be used to disinfect women's vaginas, like Michael Elgin.
Yeah, night and day on the name calling stuff. One absolutely deserves it. Other one's kind of more of a jokingly but fuck canoe is absolutely fuck canoe. Like fuck you, get on a canoe, go down a river for all the fuck I care.
Yes.
Fuck canoe.
Yes, at least Fuck Knuckle has managed to improve in New Japan to the point where it's you kid because you care. With Elgin, we kid because please go the fuck away. Just go away and never come back. You lost your wrestling privileges on this one. But before we go into the next one, let's go with another big song of the week to keep things going here. And we're keep going with our attempts to get advertisers this week. We love money.
BlueChew.com.
Yep.
If he gets to the store before the light of dawn, and he stays till the sun has come around and gone, oh man, he's a penny man, in the great tradition of a penny man. If he wishes that he could be a simple clerk, and he looks at his office and the paperwork, oh man, he's a penny man, in the great tradition of a penny man. If he's had when a visit from the class is through, and he goes for his DM and his EM too, oh man, he's a penny man, in the great tradition of a penny man. If he looks at the kind of stuff the buyer picks, and he knows that he's in the hands of lunatics, oh man, he's a penny man, in the great tradition
of a penny man. If he has to be certain everything gets done, he can teach new associates to count to one. Oh man, he's a penny man. And the great tradition of a penny man. If a hot shot is what he's got that he wants sold, but he finds though it's hard to keep the public cold. Oh man, he's a penny man. In the great tradition of a penny man. On the days everything begins to go amiss, if he thinks surely Kemper is not like this. Oh man, he's a penny man. He's a penny man. In the great tradition of a penny man. He's a penny man. If he can't join the other fellas for a run, where he stays working later to protect his comp. Oh man, he's a penny man. He's a penny man. In the great tradition of a penny man. He's a penny man. If he knows that the men up in New York are gems, but he'd like it if they would fix their IBMs. Oh man, he's a penny man. He's a penny man. In the great tradition of a penny man. He's a penny man. Well, we guess that it's time for us to end this song, but there's one we could go on racing all night long. Oh man, he's a penny man. He's a penny man. In the great tradition of a penny man. But we're not through, because that all applies to every penny woman.
That was one of the many songs this week, and this one of He's a Penny Man, trying to get money from J.C. Penney for these ones. Give us money. We like money.
Wait a minute.
So
how many songs
people haven't gotten back to us yet?
What?
I was saying, so the Gillette people haven't gotten back to us yet?
Not yet.
We dropped their names so many times.
Yeah. But now we've got the big ones for the other big show that happens this week, G1 Supercard, as Ring of Honor and New Japan make it to Madison Square Garden. and there's a few big matches on this one. To start it with, the harem or wrestling division of Women of Honor will be in the dark match on this one, as Kagetsu, Jenny Rose, and Hazuki face Hana Kimura, Stella Gray, and Sumi Sakai in a 6-woman tag team match. This is naturally in the dark match because it's not like Ring of Honor cares about their women's division, and not like New Japan would put a women's division in their show. Because I'm not sure what Japanese or Gillette the best that men could be would be. So, any thoughts on who wins this one from anybody, or if it even matters for the same token?
I mean, they're getting paid, so it at least matters in that regard.
Yeah, and that's always nice on it, where if nothing else, they're getting paid.
I assume they're getting paid.
Yeah, they're getting to work at MSG. They're getting paid in something that's probably not $20 and a handshake and a slightly lingering hug by a sleazy promoter, but that's always a good thing as well. But then, since it's a New Japan show with Ring of Honor, who's trying to be New Japan, the pre-show match is announced as the Honor Rumble, and we have 11 of the 30 entrants announced so far, as Jushin Thunder Liger, Kenny King, PJ Black, the Beer City Bruiser, Brian Milanes, Cheeseburger, Rhett Titus, LSG, Shaheem Ali, Tracy Williams, and Jonathan Gresham will be in the match. But we don't know the other 19 entrants, so it's going to be hard to give a prediction there unless anyone thinks one of those 11 will win. Anybody?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah. But at least there's the actual matches, so we'll have some more possibilities on these ones. First one, you've got winner-take-all match for the Never Openweight and Ring of Honor Television Championships, as Will Ospreay faces Jeff Cobb. And
I wonder where Vince got the let's make the main event of WrestleMania winner take all.
I
wonder where he got that idea from.
I don't know on this one because
I was making a bad joke.
Well,
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey may be as monstrous as Matanza, but she didn't get sicked on a cat like Will Ospreay, so.
I don't like these kind of matches because there's a few on this card that are winner take all.
Yeah.
So and I'm just gonna say it. There's a point where, like, I like the show, and it's gonna be in Madison Square Garden. Like, that's all nifty and good and stuff, but keep my New Japan away from Ring of Honor.
Yeah, and honestly, that's really the problem where this is just an example that Ring of Honor couldn't have done this without New Japan, but New Japan could have done it without Ring of Honor.
Yes.
Or at least they could have before the exodus to AEW, but
right.
It still helps on this one where I don't know how they go with these minor ones on it, and it's really hindered by the fact that AEW happened and took most of the big matches. So going forward there on these ones, in case there's anything else that's really impressive for these ones, you have a singles match between Roosh and Dalton Castle, so...
And that's like one of the only 2 Ring of Honor matches I'm actually interested in.
Yeah. Ultimately, that's really the problem because it works that they're getting their big thing in New York because just like Saturday Night Live, that New York institution, Ring of Honor is a bad restaurant and a great location.
Yeah. And I know Metal Matt loves him some Rouge.
Yes. Ultimately, it's very good on these ones for those ones where Roosh could probably be very good if they went through it, but it's just a question of whether New Japan picks him up enough to let him be as ingobernable as he can.
Well, I got a company he can go back to.
Yep.
ML Dub.
Honestly, that's one of the problems on it because MLW has been losing a lot of big names to ROH, but MLW is probably the better company right now.
Yeah.
Excuse me. They remind me of when all this started with the WWE, what WWE, like, that used to be the Ring of Honor's placeholder thingy.
Yeah.
And now, like, it's happening to MLW.
Yeah. And that's really a good thing on it, where it's clear that Evolve has the conch shell for the indie scene because they have the work here and you'll have WWE scouting you, but of the outside ones, MLW seems to have surpassed Ring of Honor. It'll just be a question mark if they keep doing it, since it looks like cable things have said that beIN Sports may go belly up, and if they do that, that might lower the MLW things right there.
Yeah, I have heard those rumors.
Yeah. I hope it's not, because I don't want to pay. If they do, tell me so I don't have to pay $5 more a month for Sling. So,
I mean, the MLW Fusion is available on YouTube.
Yeah, but there's just something of watching it on TV. So,
True.
And in the Women of Honor World Championship, the bestest kisser in the world trophy is going in as Mayu Iwatani takes on Kelly Klein. Since it's the Women of Honor, that probably means Kelly Klein's going to win.
Yeah. Mayu's definitely, and I love them both, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Who should win and who will probably win here are polar opposites. Mayu should win.
Yeah.
Kelly Klein will probably win.
Yeah. Ultimately, that's really the problem on it, where if Ring of Honor's fallen off a cliff, the way they treat the Women of Honor is basically the best reason why, because you've got a fan base that wants serious women's wrestling, some bumper crop of indie talents in the women's division, and Ring of Honor runs it as a dating service for Hunter Matthews and his friends.
Yeah. Remember when Emma was supposed to change the landscape of Women of Honor?
Well, that's the problem where ultimately the future refused to change.
Exactly.
And on the plus side, it does give Emma might be a good buy low candidate for some WrestleMania crowd sightings. So that's a nice thought there as well.
Please come back.
Yes.
Baby, come back too.
Yeah. And ultimately,
but yeah, because they were at a point, because if you follow Ring of Honor, it was right there, like, okay, do the, and I'm not saying specifically put the belt on Tenille and Dashwood, but
That's
you
what I'm
want to
saying.
talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, that's
I mean, they could have.
Yeah.
But and like Greeny said, like the no, the future didn't. They just kept on doing what they were doing and doing what they were doing and doing what they were doing, and nothing has changed. And it's kind of
should have been grinding before that Lavos fight, man.
Yeah. Well, it's on the plus side, that could keep Iwatani as the champion because she is the face of Stardom. It does give them someone who could be used, and Klein doesn't have the benefit that she puts the first name into Whitmer, so now that he's in AEW, so that they can't build around her anymore. So,
nah. It's kind of not the name itself, but how they're actually booked. Kind of irks me that they're called Women of Honor, because there's no honor in how they've done that division.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's really the problem where all this other stuff, you can get away with Ring of Honor prostrated themselves to New Japan. At least the New Japan roster gave them a lot of people they could use as stars that they didn't have to risk losing to WWE. But how they've treated the Women of Honor, there's no good way to say it. Hunter Matthews should be fired as booker on this one. He's the only booker in this one who we outright know is using the casting couch for his women's division. We may have some snarky jokes about people like Kevin Dunn or Vince McMahon, but there's no proof at any point that they've ever traded sexual favors for a push. Strong whispers, yes, but no conclusive proof they have ever said, if you sleep with me, I will give you a push on the roster. With Hunter Matthews, we know he's done it. He admits he's done it. The guy is, why this is not a story is beyond me. Seriously, how bad is it that this guy is still employed by Ring of Honor? And ultimately, that's what's killed the roster. And it's probably for the best that Ring of Honor gets the last bite at the talent after WWE and after AEW and after Impact and after Lucha Underground. And hell, Chikara gets a bite at the talent before Ring of Honor does, and they deserve it because at least Chikara books their women really well.
I don't know if Lucha Underground gets bite anymore.
Well, probably not anymore, but they did. And I think a lot of people would probably rather be in a dead promotion than in Women of Honor. So, but going past,
are you saying that there is no honor in being in Women of Honor?
Exactly. That is exactly what I'm saying. Then we have the New York City street fight as Bully Ray has finally found his opponent in his open challenge in Fuck Knuckle. Yep. Which is a positive on this one because I think that WWE is doing pretty well with their long-suffering tag team specialist wrestler fighting the insipid, insufferable hippie douchebags. So maybe it can work in the garden as well. Who knows?
This will definitely be. I'll be in the kitchen getting something to eat.
Yeah. Well, it might work on this one when Robinson actually has to show how much he's learned in New Japan and can't just focus his promos on going balls deep in Japanese women. So that's a good plus there as well. So. And we have the match that seemed to be the possible match of the weekend already, as IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championships on the line. Taiji Ishimori faces Dragon Lee faces Bandito.
Oh, that's gonna be so fun.
Yes. And the only question on this one is, do they get Dragon Lee or Bandito in New Japan to win the title there and go there? But the bigger question on people's minds, does Hiromu come back in the Garden or not?
That's what I'm waiting for, dude. We've talked about this before, and I've said it in forums. I might cry if Hiromu shows up. Like, I might.
Yes. That would be very good if it happened, honest. And I don't think it would be impossible to, because even if you don't really watch New Japan or don't know of him, it's hard not to like Hiromu. So, like, he's just one of those guys who just, as the forms in Japanese culture right now are going, he's one of those wrestlers who just brings joy.
Yes, he's such a light, and speaking of people we were talking about earlier, that some people can be really a dark cloud on. He is such a joy, like just his wrestling, his persona, him. For those that don't know, just Google. It's HIROMU space TAKAHASHI Hiromu Takahashi, and just put GIF at the end. Just look right there is just a 4-second clip, and you're gonna smile.
Yeah, that last one.
HEIROMU space.
Oh, I know how it's spelled, but what was the thing at the end of it?
GIF.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But yes, sometimes some people you don't want to lose to leaves clutter on this one. You need more Hiromu Takahashi in your life, and if this is his return, that would make this show even better. Going for this one, we have another winner-takes-all match for both the IWGP Tag Team and ROH World Tag Team Championships, as the Gorillas of Destiny, or Tamatanga and Camacho, face Villain Enterprises of PCO and Brody King, face LIJ of Evil and Sonata, face the Briscoes. And honestly, this is another good one where I don't know who wins on this one.
It's got to be either GOD or Evil and Sonata.
I don't know. I could
And they can always make a trip down to the Briscoe Brothers Body Shop. And folks, it's worth the drive.
I don't know. I think that Jay Briscoe wouldn't want them to do rear end work. So. But it doesn't. There's at least it makes sense on it. Two good ROH teams, two good New Japan tag teams, and I could see any one of these teams working for it. So
that's why I don't like these winner take all matches.
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to say?
Especially like cross promotional winner take all matches.
Mm-hmm. Well, unless it means that they're finally usurping ROH entirely and just going with them as New Japan USA, that could be a good thing, winner takes all. So
if they But we know that's not happening.
Yep. And since it's not even just the New Japan and ROH going in, we have the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship on the line as Zack Sabre Jr. takes on Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Let's go, Tanahashi. Let's go, Tanahashi.
Zack Sabre Jr.
Damn you. Somebody mute him.
Sorry, we were doing like the rival chants, you know, like
yeah.
That's what I was going
work
for.
on this one because on the one, I'm still not sure which side I'm going with. On the one hand, you've got the guy who really sucked in the Cruiserweight Classic, but on the other side, you've got the Japanese equivalent of Eric Bugenhagen. So I don't know.
Sure.
What? They both do the air guitar thing. That's the same thing, right? Tee-hee, tee-hee. But yeah.
It's going to be sad.
Taka Michinoku tells everybody to just tap out. Oh, I want to tap out all right, especially when I'm watching a Zack Sabre match.
Yeah. Honestly, it could be interesting on this one if Tanahashi wins because he's done so much in Japan already that I think it could be interesting if he wins a title on 3 different continents this year on it. And Tanahashi as an ROH World Champion could be in the works eventually, it seems like. So it would be interesting if they tried that route for him for 2019.
And we all know, like, it's possible that New Japan dude gets Rev Pro Championship.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a very good one on it.
Yeah, it's happened.
Yeah, my early pick would be Tanahashi wins, and then Tanahashi and Sabre Jr. celebrate with an air version of some crappy folk punk UK stuff that the liberals would use on these things. So maybe it wasn't a good thing to say it that way, but yes. Ultimately, I do think Tanahashi wins this, just barely. Yeah. You have the IWGP Intercontinental Championship as Tetsuya Naito takes on Kota Ibushi. And honestly,
really looking forward to this match.
Yeah. This match looks like it's going to be a 5-star match, but it could have been so much better. This just seems like it would have been. You could have went with Ibushi Omega in this one, and you could have had the chance of the battle goes through and Naito trying for the title on them. It could have been really good, but it just seems like it's a little off. Where this is going to be amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know what they do with this one. I kind of think Ibushi gets the title as is. You signed with us. Now we'll give you a championship thing, but I just don't know.
Yeah, that's too close to call.
Yeah. Yeah, you could make a case for either guy, so. Any other thoughts on this one, Matt Arosh?
I don't really have anything.
Yeah. And then in the co-main events, we have the Ring of Honor World Championship on the line between Jay Lethal, Marty Scurll, and Matt Taven. One of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong. One of these things is not like the others.
Why are they going to make me suffer through a Matt Taven match again? And with it being for the championship, it's going to go for a while.
Yeah.
Why, dear Lord, what have I done in my life that I am suffering through these long ass Matt Taven matches.
Yeah. Honestly, this is the problem on it. It's the worst thing is that I'd almost root for Taven to win this match solely because Lethal and Skrull are at the every day when I watch a Ring of Honor match, the one thing I'm hoping for these is that we get the word that Lethal or Skrull signed an NXT contract, just left without saying a word, just left to AEW. They're just gone from Ring of Honor.
And I don't like Marty Skrull either.
Yeah, but they clearly deserve better on this one, even as the champs on it. It might be time to go with Taven and just say, yeah, Ring of Honor sucks now. Thanks, guys. This is our champion. It's Matt Taven. Sorry about that.
If we're going to suck, let's really suck.
Yeah.
You think we're bad? No, we can be really bad.
Let's
put the title on
Ring of Honor to start tanking. Maybe then they'll get some actual good draft picks. They're starting to get people they're signing from MLW, but if just bottom out and go for the draft picks on it.
I was about to say, are they thinking like if they tank this that the NFL draft's in a couple of weeks, like they get the first overall pick of the NFL draft?
I think they got that one when they signed Roosh and Brody King and PCO though, so there was a good big four that they signed of Roosh, Bandito, PCO, and Brody King, but at the same time, it's like you don't get good picks if you bottom out. But yeah, I don't know who wins this match on it because I could see any one of them doing it. I could see Lethal retaining because both of the other guys aren't really someone you'd think is a good ROH World Champ. I could see Skrull keeping it in their last-ditch attempt to say, no, please don't go to AEW or WWE. I don't care that all your friends are in AEW. I don't care your girlfriend's in NXT. Just don't go there and stay with us. We'll give you the title. And I could see Taven doing it and fuck it. We don't have anyone else better. Let's give the guy a try.
And that would be so sacrilege if they literally, well, we don't have any else better. Motherfucker, did you not look in the locker room? Like,
I don't know. I think that the problem is that they did go with this way. They finally give a title to the Kingdom, even though the Kingdom was so bad that Mike Bennett ended up being too good for them.
What's Nicholas from last WrestleMania? What's he doing this weekend? Make him Ring of Honor champion.
Honestly, would probably be better for everybody involved.
But does Maria want to go back to Ring of Honor is the question.
Well, I assume she's probably being treated like a human being in WWE, so that's a good plus there.
Yeah, so probably not then.
Yeah. And in the main event for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, you have Kazuchika Okada gets his shot to regain the title he never lost against some emo kid.
Sure.
The man who Tanahashi Tommy Rich the title to.
Yes. Well, I think it's a good one because Okada has lost these ones, and New Japan deserves someone to be on top with Okada being trustworthy. He's a great champion on it, and he can bring New Japan back to when I was a young boy. Seriously, this is the problem where Jay White is so good, but he's just not IWGP title material. It's like I can't stress it enough. Jay White is what you do in Japan when your manga lost its anime. you try to regroup and build it around some emo kid and hope that that gets the shippers' juices flowing so they keep your manga popular after everybody can cease to care. And Bullet Club at this point is basically the manga that had its anime end. It is in there. It's over. Just break the group up already. We can deal with it. All the people we cared about in Bullet Club are in AEW anyway, so you can just give up the ghost here.
Not all of them. AJ
I was about to say the same thing.
Balor in WWE.
Yeah.
You have AJ Styles in WWE.
Yeah, AJ Styles is there. Finn Balor's there.
The Good Brother.
Anderson and Gallows, but no one cares about Anderson and Gallows anymore. But so.
I do.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those good question marks because ultimately with it, they seemed like a good team on it that could be built around them. But upon closer inspection, Luke Gallows was found to be Luke Gallows.
Yeah, he works in certain scenarios, and it's just
yeah,
it's not happening.
Yeah, it's kind of weird on it with Gallows because no matter what I do, I just think of it when I was at a WWE house show in 2006, and I walked out thinking, the fake Kane is the single worst professional wrestler I have ever seen live in my life, and I include VFW halls in that. But yeah, hopefully this is where Okada gets the title back and ends the Jay White experiment once and for all, where White can just go back to being the knife pervert in the mid-card.
Unfortunately, I think that doesn't happen until they're on Japanese soil.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's weird on this one because I do think at least one New Japan title's changing hands here because it's the Garden, and they're going to want to have at least one title change hands. Probably the same for the Ring of Honor titles on it, but with the winner take all matches, that was going to happen anyway. So
yeah.
So part of me does think that Okada wins the title just so that they can say the IWGP title changed hands in Madison Square Garden, and that probably means Skull or Taven take it so they can say the Ring of Honor World title changed hands in Madison Square Garden. So I am thinking that, all things considered, yes, we get Kazuchika Okada winning the title here, and then by logic, if Skull's not under, oh god, we're going to see Matt Taven as Ring of Honor World Champion. Oh, fuck no. Well, that was this one, and now we get to the main event. But before this one, we go with another song of the week as we try to get some advertisements going here, and
There was a desert that never saw a tree. Now it's an orchard green as far as you can see. We were there. We were there. There was a marshland, nothing but mud and foam. Now it's a city where a million people call it home. We were there. We were there. We were there when the thirsty desert drank, when the city began to throb. We were there on the dunes and the river bank, with the diesel to do the job. There was an SOS, survivors afloat. Then to the rescue came a simple fishing boat. We were there. We were there. We were there when the levee held the river back. We were there when Niagara roared. We were there when the oil well blew its stack. We were there when the well was blowed. We were there when the trucker got the power boost, and the boost that he needed was large. We were there when the Boeing jet came to roost. You can bet that we gave him a charge. When Telstar went up in the sky to stay, we were there with electrical rain. We were there when the snow was being plowed away. We were there when the snow was made. We were there in the transcontinental bus. We were there in the old sawmill. We were there every time they needed us. You can bet that we always will. When there's a long to pay or any scale to weigh, oh yeah, we ain't thinking much too far. And we wanted yesterday. We'll be there. We'll be there. We'll be there when the surgeon has to see. When the danger becomes acute, we'll be there where a highway wants to be, and the trucks that'll go the route. And when the time has come for us to meet our fates, guess whose power they'll use to work those pearly gates? We'll be there.
That was We Were There, trying to get money from General Motors, because we're such big prostitutes at Whacked Out Wrestling, you'd think we worked for Women of Honor.
Which brings us to our original sponsor, Gillette, the best that men can be.
Exactly. And now we have the main event of this one, the granddaddy of them all, the one thing that everybody's waiting for this week, WrestleMania.
I'm going to bounce at least for a little bit, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming. And this one has a lot of big matches to go with, and they've already announced the 3 pre-show matches on this one, and they already have the builds for each of them. First off, like every other pre-show match, we have the Cruiserweight title is on the line as Buddy Murphy defends against the hometown boy and Tony Nese as in this match. And anybody have any thoughts on how this one would go? Roche, Matt?
I don't really have much in the way of thoughts on this. I mean, honestly, it could go either way. It's a title that probably a significant fan base forgot.
My guess is that Tony Nese wins. I don't know if he's necessarily the right person to win the title, but it is time for Murphy to win the title.
Yeah, it's weird on it because Murphy's gone about as far as he can go, but even when they try to hype him up for the last few weeks on 205 Live, it's like Tony Nese's gimmick is still, I've got abs. And I don't know if that's the right guy to be a world champion material on it. I mean,
he's under 205 pounds and he can still rock those kinds of abs.
Yeah, but Finn Balor's also under 205 pounds, and it's a plot point that guy has amazing abs.
Okay.
So they're already having one title given to guy under 205 pounds who has abs. So do they do it for 2 matches in this one is the question mark.
That is a good point.
Ultimately, I do think that it's probably, yeah, keep the belt on Murphy on it, but ultimately it's do something with Murphy on the main roster on it. The guy's been an unsung hero in the company. He deserves a bit more spotlight. So it'd be the right time to do it there. So coming up next, we have the two bars of this one, the Arm Bar and the Snickers Bar. For the Snickers Bar, we have 13 entrants announced, and they've announced that NXT will have entrants in it as well. So presumably 7 women will be added from the NXT ranks. We have from Raw, Dana Brooke, Mickie James, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan. From SmackDown, Asuka, Carmella, Naomi, Lana, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Zelina Vega, and from the free agency scene, Nikki Cross. Which is honestly a weird thing on it because ultimately I think that it's most likely that Lacey Evans is going to win this. So that seems like the big question that they haven't announced her, but
I don't know. I feel like Nikki's come to play.
Mm-hmm. That would definitely help on it. It's weird on this one with how people are whining about the Asuka change that they may have to turn tail and give it to one of the SmackDown women. And if that's the case, honestly, Mandy or Sonya would probably deserve it because they got a more Raw deal than Asuka did, in my opinion. The storyline was going pretty well. They dropped the storyline with no build just so Charlotte can get the title belt. Honestly, if it's not going to Lacey Evans, which it probably is anyway, it should go to Mandy or Sonya.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And your thoughts, Matt? Whoops. Still waiting on this one, but it does go through on these ones where you have all these big question marks where the biggest issue is who gets in from NXT, and that'll be a question mark because at least even if it's not the top 6 women in NXT on it, more than likely it's going to be 6 women from 6 different countries like it was last year, which isn't bad in itself as well. So there's a plus there for it. But ultimately, it just seems like it's too telegraphed that Lacey Evans is going to win this one. And if it's not her, there goes to it. If I said will win and should win, will win Lacey, should win Sonya Deville.
I'm going to go outside the box here. I'm going to go with Ruby Riott.
That's a very good choice on it, and the Riott Squad does deserve something for being unsung heroes on Raw, and they deserve a big win like this. So one of the Riott Squad winning would absolutely be good, and it would help them out after they were snubbed from the tag title match. So and from there we have the Arm Bar, Andre the Giant's Memorial Battle Royal. And we have the following wrestlers in the Battle Royal for it. Braun Strowman, Michael Che and Colin Jost from SNL, Apollo Crews, Titus O'Neil, Tyler Breeze, Jinder Mahal, No Way Jose, the team of Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, Kalisto, Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado of Lucha House Party and those 3, the B team of Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, Heath Slater and Rhino, The Ascension.
Wow, haven't heard from those guys.
Yep. Shelton Benjamin, the team of Gallows and Anderson, the Hardy Boys, Andrade, and his new partner on the stage. Coming up next on stage, put your hands together for Ali, Heavy Machinery, and EC3. And this is going to be weird because they've announced the Battle Royal, but they only announced 29 entrants, so there's still 1 to go, and that's going to be a good question mark of who gets it. And that'll be good because on the one hand you have the chance of a big free agent signing. You have the big chance of a big debut from NXT, like they did with Baron Corbin. You have the chance of a celebrity like Shaquille O'Neal, a legend. Oh, fuck, it's going to be Hulk Hogan, isn't it?
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is the WrestleMania Andre the Giant Battle Royal, brother, dude, Jack.
Yep. Yep, it's like the great things on it. It is. He did name the Andre Battle Royal originally, and ultimately, if he did, it would be the same thing as the great statements that Hulk Hogan made that we all take to heart. I am a racist to a point. I mean, if she's gonna date a blank, why can't she date a blank 8-foot one worth $100 million blank? I guess we're all a little racist. Fucking blank.
Ugh.
Of course, that naturally they did announce that of the people inducting them, Hogan being the one to induct Brutus Beefcake did go through. But on a plus side, WWE did not make a statue of Hogan and did not add another statue of a racist, instead planning to give a statue to the guy who painted himself half black for a storyline in WrestleMania 6. But ultimately in this match, I don't know who gets the win here. Braun Strowman seems a little too obvious to get the win on it, so if we don't,
it's going to be Colin Jost.
Yeah.
Well,
because at this point, why not?
Well, honestly,
the Battle Royal doesn't mean anything anymore anyway. I don't even think it ever did. Why not have one of the SNL guys win?
It's basically just a big thing that they throw together just to give a bunch of people who wouldn't make it on the card otherwise a payoff, which, makes it worth it in that respect at least.
Yeah.
But
honestly, I don't think it's going to be Colin Jost for the simple reason that we've seen enough from celebrity involvement in WrestleMania Battle Royals to know that it's not going to be Colin Jost or Michael Che winning the Battle Royal. It's going to be Colin Jost and Michael Che being directly responsible for Braun Strowman's elimination from the Battle Royal so someone else can win. We saw it with Shaquille O'Neal versus Big Show on it. We saw it with the NFL players versus wrestlers one where Refrigerator Perry caused Big John Studd to be eliminated. That seems like a far more likely thing where Jay and Jost will not win the Rumble, but they will cause Braun Strowman's elimination. And that's perfectly reasonable.
Right. As far as my prediction, I'd like to give it in a somewhat unorthodox fashion.
Okay.
Ali Bombaye. Ali Bombaye. It's gonna be Ali, I think.
Your thoughts on it, Matt?
Honestly, I think Colin Jost wins it, to be honest.
And just as sort of a side prediction, not so much to the Battle Royal, but to WrestleMania in general, I think I do wonder if they're going to bring back the like some kind of sports mascot, because you know how they had like the San Diego Chicken once or twice.
Yeah.
And they're in New Jersey, so obviously there's only one mascot they can bring in.
Gritty in the Royal Rumble.
I was actually going to say Mr. Matt.
Yep.
But yeah, Gritty would work too.
Well, I think I'm going to go with my prediction in another unorthodox fashion on it, since Roche did. So, my prediction.
Who knocked the crack in the Liberty Bell? Ali.
Who really gave that bell a smack? Ali. Who punches so hard that the bell did crack? Hit it so hard with an awful whack. Ali. Oh, Ali. Ali's always scared to play the things he didn't do. Just because he likes to scrap, and maybe sometimes do. People want to blame the man, although he wasn't there. Maybe we should take a look. The blame could well be shared. Who rode the ride of Paul Revere? Ali. That midnight ride for a country deer. Ali. Who made the ride of Paul Revere? He rode so hard he ate the British deer. Ali. Oh, Ali's getting away the things he didn't do. Just because he likes to scrap, and maybe sometimes do. People want to ban the man, although he wasn't there. Maybe we should take a look. The blame could well be shared. Who done the tea at the Boston Bay? Ali. Set fire to the ship that was setting in the bay. Ali. Destroyed the tea so our country could be free. Dressed up like an Indian. Who was he? Ali. Ali's always getting away. Just because he likes to scrap, and maybe sometimes do. People want to blame the man, although he wasn't there. Maybe we should take a look. The blame could well be shared.
This is why we need Joey on our show. He keeps me sane with his songs of the week, people. But yes, that's my pick for the Rumble. Of course, the corpse of Muhammad Ali rises and wins the title. But then we have the actual matches on the card, and we have 16 matches for the show, because there's, on the one hand, there's a lot of matches, but it's WrestleMania. It's the one show you can have this many matches for. And I know a lot of people have been saying, let's just make 2-night WrestleManias instead, but personally, if it was up to me, I'd just go build the Raw and SmackDown before WrestleMania as the season finales, and Smarkamania and SmackDown as the season premiere. And then you just run the last episode of the season for Raw and SmackDown and just blow off every mid-card storyline on the show. No one who has a featured match at WrestleMania gets to have a match, and just run it like that.
That could work.
But right now, that goes with all the big matches here. On the match that was just announced today on this one is Raw Tag Titles on the line, as the revival of Wilder and Dawson take on Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder.
And why is this match playing?
What? What'd you say?
Why is this match a thing?
Yeah. That's one of the worst things on it, when I cough just as you keep saying something, so. But if it...
all the matches on this card.
Yeah, the problem on
this is the match that is specifically designed to get more people on the card. just for the sake of having it on the card. If you're going to have a Raw Tag Team title match, why not have it be Revival and Black and Ricochet? That's the match that makes the most sense.
Honestly, it goes with the case where if you're doing it, make it a multi-person match. Like every other tag title match is on the card on it. So why not just have, say, Rude and Gable in the match, or a Luther House Party added to the match? Get them in there. You open up 5 more spots for 205 Live or some other wrestlers on the card to enter the Battle Royal. You do more stuff on it. You're going to go overkill. No kill like overkill, so just do it that way. As far as this match, it's the worst part of it because it's so telegraphed. It seems like it's basically the Revival said, we'll leave if we don't get the tag titles. And they said, fine, you can have the tag titles, but you have to be Kurt Hawkins' first win. And honestly, that's why the match is a thing ultimately, because we all know it's to have Kurt Hawkins' losing streak end by winning a championship at WrestleMania, which is more power to him, I guess, because it's like Hawkins has suffered enough, and getting him a WrestleMania moment wouldn't be that bad, so sure, why not?
I mean, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
If that's the story they were telling going into this.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they just kind of hinted at it about 2 months ago, did nothing, then all of a sudden, it's like it's back on. And just nobody told us.
Yeah, this just reeks of we promised Hawkins he could get his losing streak to end by winning the title, so we're holding him to it, even though it doesn't make sense in storyline anymore. And honestly, it goes to the case where ultimately it just is what it is. A nice, cheap WrestleMania moment to be a WrestleMania moment. So my prediction is for this, Hawkins and Ryder win the titles, but then they celebrate tomorrow night on Raw, and then we hear "Shock the System," and we have our next Raw Tag Team champs.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that does happen.
Mm-hmm. Your thoughts, Roche?
Yeah, I feel like that's what it's gonna be too. Like, I mean, they're gonna give Hawkins his win so he can finally like get that off his shoulders, but they're not gonna hold the titles for very long. There's no way.
Yeah. So we have that match in. We have the SmackDown Tag Team Championships on the line as the Usos take on Ricochet and Aleister Black, The Bar, and Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. Again, this is also the problem because you have the Hardy Boys in the Battle Royal, and you put a team that's been in the feud on Raw, Ricochet and Black, into the SmackDown match for no reason. And it's like, why?
It reminds me of WrestleMania 15, where Road Dogg was going for the Intercontinental Championship, and Billy Gunn was going for the
Hardcore.
What was that? Like they were going for like different championships going into it.
Well, what had happened was
different champions.
Yeah. Roche, continue.
Like, what had happened was Billy Gunn had been in a feud with Ken Shamrock over the Intercontinental title. Then, like, Val Venus winds up winning the Intercontinental title. And then what happens is Road Dogg wins the title from Val Venus. And then, as this is going on, Billy Gunn wins the Hardcore Championship. I don't know who had it at that point.
Yeah, it was just basically Russo trying to get cute for the sake of Russo trying to get cute. And it just didn't work that way. And ultimately, that's the problem as well here on it, where it's Ricochet and Black at least get a match at WrestleMania, but this is not the right match for them. Ultimately, for this one, I'm assuming Ricochet and Aleister Black win the tag titles here, but it probably isn't the right move, but it seems to make more sense than the Bar, Nakamura, and Rusev getting the belts on it. They could keep Usos on this one since they did announce today that the Usos have re-signed with WWE, so you can put away they're totally going to AEW thoughts on it. So, who do you guys think will win?
I'll go with Black and Ricochet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like a fairly safe bet.
Yeah. So you have two of those tag titles on the line in those ones, and then you have the women's tag titles on the line as the Boston Hug Connection take on the Divas of Doom, Nia Jax and Tamina, and the Iconics. And honestly, this is another one of those weird matches where it's clear that they're gonna try for something, but ultimately it's who you want to win and who's probably going to win. I'd like to see the Iconics win just to get them into the thick of the tag title division if Fire and Desire are presumably going to be breaking up, and that if you have those ones, having the SmackDown team be the one that travels would work. But I think that in 2 weeks' time, the Iconics are going to be on Raw, whether it's as women's tag champs or whether it's as members of the shakeup is the question right now. So, but right now it does seem like Boston Hug Connection are going to win this match. So,
well, I don't know about that because SK, as you know, just a few weeks ago, Boston Hug were soundly defeated by the Iconics.
Well, granted, that is a good sign on it, but like I said, I'm still picking for that one. Within 2 weeks' time, the Iconics are going to be on Raw, but I'm not sure if it's as the champions or not. I hope it's as the champions, but I'm assuming that it's going to be Bayley and Sasha.
You see, SK, the Iconics have Boston Hug's number. It should be 2-on-2. But unfortunately, Boston Hug know what will happen the next time they step into the ring with the Iconics. So they added in 2 lesser teams to try and screw the Iconics. But let me tell you something. The Iconics at WrestleMania, they will overcome all the obstacles. They will overcome any single thing in their way to become the new tag team champions, the new women's tag team champions at WrestleMania. And it will simply be iconic.
That I could absolutely do, and I also did the pose as you said it, so. But ultimately, it seems like the Divas of Doom probably won't win unless Beth Phoenix is really serious about going full-time. Nia and Tamina will work, and honestly, it's almost one of those weird things that wait, really? This is stats that go through. I think it would be one of the first times that we have a known scheduled match where an Australian fights another Australian in a WWE ring, which, given how they're scouting the country, is kind of interesting if you think about it. In this case, it would be Nia Jax, born in the country while there, and then, of course, against the Iconics. So,
right.
But yeah, it would be will win Bayley and Sasha. Should win the Iconics. God, no, please no, Nia and Tamina.
Yeah, Boston Hug are going to win, but the Iconics really should win. Honestly, they should have won an Elimination Chamber.
Mm-hmm. Well, ultimately, it's going to keep going for the future on this one and go later on to this. Continuing on for the singles matches, you have Roman Reigns versus Cancer. No, you already beat that. Roman Reigns versus Wrestling Cancer in Drew McIntyre.
This could be the sleeper match of the show.
Yeah.
This could be the match that steals the show. And I think Roman wins here.
Well, I definitely think Roman wins on it, and this will be a very good power match, but it still seems like McIntyre's. I'm not sure if McIntyre still has it to be the guy everybody thinks he could be. It seems like good upper mid card heel is now his window, and that it's going to definitely be an awesome match, but I don't know if this will be the launching point to make McIntyre in Reigns' level. But I do think Reigns is definitely winning this match. I think it's going to be a 3 or 4 star match, so it's going to be. This is probably blue chip to be good. Your thoughts, Roach?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree that Roman Reigns is going to win, and this is most likely to be a match that's better than most people would expect it to be.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to see like Roman Reigns bust out a space flying tiger drop or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like we saw him at Elimination Chamber. No, wait, Fastlane. We saw him at Fastlane, and he was pretty good for like considering what he had come back from.
Yeah. And even if it's not space flying tiger drops on it, ultimately Roman doesn't need space flying tiger drops. He might be the best power wrestler on the planet today, and at least fans are starting to realize there's value in a really good power wrestler, so that's a good plus there as well. Ultimately, if the anime theory's coming back in for power wrestling, that could help Roman finally get the fans' love again, so that would be a big thing there. So going into this one, you'd have Intercontinental title on the line as Bobby Lashley faces Finn Balor. Now, I know what you're thinking. Bitch Boy Bobby has beaten Finn Balor a lot of times, but has he beaten him in body paint? And that's going to be the big question here, as Bobby Lashley will not be facing a mortal man. He will be facing a demon.
I love how a Universal title match is not important enough to bring the demon out, but an Intercontinental title match is.
Well, you've got to understand that Brock Lesnar is a force of nature. Bobby Lashley, on the other hand, he looks like money. He smells like money. He is money.
Lashley.
But yes, that is a big question mark. And at least it makes some sense where Balor seems like he doesn't bring out the demon unless he really hates the person, which is a good one, because with Lesnar, he was fighting for the Universal title, but he didn't have any reason to hate Lesnar yet. And so the demon could be kept inside. But with Lashley, he has...
there's plenty of reasons to hate Lesnar.
Well, yeah. But in kayfabe, we're talking about.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think it's going to be... Well, it's hard not to. That's the thing. If Finn Balor's the demon, he never loses. So Balor's absolutely winning the title. The only question mark is if they have the thing to say, well, the demon won the title, not Finn Balor, so the demon has to defend the title. Which would actually be pretty interesting if you think about it. And then we have the United States Championship match, which is, well, we don't know right now. On paper, it was supposed to be Samoa Joe facing Rey Mysterio, who was so beloved by his family and friends that Eddie Guerrero's son is about to come to the ring and be at ringside with him for his match. At least that's what we thought for the most of this one. But this week on Raw, we heard the news that Rey Mysterio broke his ankle, and they don't know if he's going to be cleared for the match instead. There's rumors going around that it might be a triple threat match with Andrade and Ali in the match, but it's currently unknown the status of whether Rey's going to be in it. whether they'll move Andrade and Ali from the Battle Royal to it or what happens. And for that topic, if Ali is in the Battle Royal instead, I'd probably give my pick to EC3 if Ali's not in, but ultimately that's going to be a big question of, do we get Joe versus Mysterio here?
Like, honestly, I don't even, like, I'm not trying to say, like, how bad the injury is, because I'm not a doctor and I don't know, but I have broken my ankle in the past. So I know how bad it can be. I know how long it can take to recover from it. And I feel like if his place in the match is just unlikely as opposed to No Way in Hell, it might not be as bad as we fear. Like, I mean, that said, he should take as much time as he needs to make sure that he's 100% or as close to it as he can get.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't honestly know if, but like, but that's the thing. Like, I'm saying that it's like the fact that it's just not likely as opposed to like not happening. Like, we don't know how bad it ultimately is.
Yeah. And honestly, that's going to be a question mark as well, because on the one hand, it's WrestleMania, the one show where if it's possible to wrestle, you fight your way through the injury and take time off after WrestleMania. And on the other hand, it's Rey Mysterio, and whenever Rey Mysterio's on, the big story is what wrestler is he, or what superhero is he going to cosplay as this year? So that's going to be another question mark for him. But
well, half of them are gone, so.
Well, yeah. So that does lower the amount as well. But
because he was Daredevil for WrestleMania 19. Mm-hmm. He was the Flash at WrestleMania 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going to be a question mark because all the superheroes that have come up since then have gone through. And as Roach said, half of them are dead already, so.
Well, Shazam is coming out soon.
Yeah. But
that is true. We forgot about Shazam.
Mm-hmm. But it does go with the same case where the bigger problem as well is that it's Rey Mysterio. Rey's managed to be so good on the independent scene the last few years because he had time to rest up his leg injuries, and even if an ankle injury isn't the same as knee problems on it, you'd have to want to be a little bit more tender on Rey Mysterio's legs with how much mileage he had on him, so that you run the risk that you don't end things like you did beforehand with him. You have to keep running him. Instead of running 100,000 miles in first class, which he probably can't do anymore, do 250,000 miles in coach with his legs. So ultimately, I do think that that's probably going to play a role in the armbar as well, because I do think Andrade and Ali probably get added to the match, at least so that you can take a little bit of the load off of Rey Mysterio here. But ultimately, I think that's the question. That probably happens. And if so, that's the case, I don't know how it goes, because I think if it's a one-on-one match, Joe retains. But if it's a four-way match, then Ali or Andrade win the match. So, and of course, there's the X factor that Kevin Owens still doesn't have something to do yet. So Owens could also be the replacement there, and Owens winning would be viable as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for this match, ultimately, I'm going to go with, I don't know. Any more firm viewpoints on this match from either of you?
No, I don't know. It's generally a pretty solid performer. I think they could win this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Joe retains regardless of what happens.
Mm-hmm. And then we go to a singles match on this one, which is honestly the dream match no one knew they wanted until it happened and they realized, oh yeah, I wanted this so badly for so long, in AJ Styles versus Randy Orton. And honestly, this shows why both guys are so underrated at different forms, with Orton being underrated as a wrestler all around and AJ being underrated with his charisma, that they took what should have been just a normal match and ended up making it an intriguing angle that would be really good. They took everything we knew and made it part of the storyline of AJ being the face of the indie scene, Orton being the face of the WWE, and now they're finally going to square off with each other. It's a gripping storyline, and it's probably going to be a pretty good match to boot. So, honestly, I'm thinking that AJ Styles gets the win here, but I could absolutely see it being Orton as well. You guys' thoughts?
I think Styles wins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to go with Styles on this one.
Yeah. Then we have, from other ones, we go to the last of the non-farewell singles matches, as the best in the world, Shane McMahon, takes on The Miz in a Falls Count Anywhere match. And honestly, this is pretty interesting on it, where they managed to make The Miz finally work as a babyface. You thought it could happen, but now The Miz is a fiery white meat babyface, and it looks like it's going to be good.
I'm just hopeful that the true babyface in the storyline, Shane McMahon, gets his revenge on that dastardly heel of The Miz.
I could buy it. I mean, Shane McMahon is the best in the world, so.
But will he go through a table?
Miz wins.
Yes. Yes, ultimately, this is all you'd want on it, where Miz is going to do the things he goes for it. Shane McMahon's going to do something insane, and that's really all you can ask for in this match. I'm still thinking The Miz probably wins, but it's going to be, it might be a sleeper good match at the very
least. And it's an interesting juxtaposition of two different styles. Like The Miz, we all know, generally plays it safe. He actually brought this up once on Talking Smack against Daniel Bryan, saying that, like, I think, like, Daniel Bryan, like, ripped on him for, like, wrestling relatively safe, and The Miz, like, rebutted, well, yeah, but I didn't have to retire.
Yeah.
Whereas Shane McMahon is well known for his reckless disregard for his own body. Like,
yes,
he won't just, like, jump off anything, through anything.
Yeah. And honestly, that's really the question on it, where at least they've managed to make it work on this one, where Shane McMahon's heel turn worked, because it's kind of weird that Shane is the one that everybody likes solely because, well, he jumps off things on the TV, so he's a good guy. And yet they still said, oh, Vince is the devil, Stephanie's the devil, and Triple H is the devil. And it was all because they were the bad guys on the TV, so I hate them. And that doesn't seem to work well. But yeah, this will probably be a better match than it sounds like on paper, so it's going to be interesting what they do either way on it. And now we get to the two retirement matches. The first one we know is a retirement match, as Kurt Angle has his farewell match against Baron Corbin. And again, may I just say to the people who are angry that, but Baron Corbin's not good enough for this match. Screw you. You know what you're asking for here. Baron Corbin may not be a popular heel, but at the same time, Corbin's at the perfect level here, where he's a bad enough heel that people hate him, but he's not so high on the card that we can't know that the match is going to be Angle slam, Angle lock, Kurt Angle gets to leave with his head held high, as the champion. That's what you want in this match, and Corbin can give that to you. He doesn't have to be a world beater in order to just be a good tackling dummy so Kurt Angle can have one last moment in the sun before he walks off into the sunset. Or to StarCast, as the case may be.
Well, Corbin, it's a weird choice for a final opponent for Angle, but it's also worth noting that Corbin was the one that did take Angle's job as GM.
Exactly.
So there's that going for it as well.
And that makes even more sense for why it's Corbin as well. He makes sense in kayfabe. He's the right part where Corbin can absolutely lose to Angle, and it won't hurt Corbin, and it won't hurt Angle there. That's the type of guy you want to be in the farewell match here. And you don't need more than that. Yes, it's not. But we want John Cena in a one last Angle classic. And it's like, Kurt Angle doesn't have enough left in the tank to give you one last Kurt Angle match. Just give him one last match so he can have one good one. Because ultimately, there's a few levels of a guy who's retiring. He's got something left in the tank, but he's losing a step. There's the level of I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was level, which Triple H is at. There's the I've got one good match left in me and that's it level, which was probably why Pentagon Jr. versus Vampiro was so good. There's the I've got nothing left in me and I know it, but I've still got my name and I can still job to some people level. And then there's the I can't even take a bump anymore without turning into glass. It's over. And Angle might be in that last level for it. So having Angle fight Corbin, a guy who can Angle never leaves his feet, Corbin bumps around like a pinball and loses on it, and Angle gets to beat him cleanly so he has one last good match. That's kind of what you want in this match. Any other thoughts? Okay, then. So going to the other possible retirement match in Triple H versus Batista. And this seems like Batista's retirement match anyway, but they don't mention it's a career versus career match. But they do mention it's no holds barred, and if Triple H loses, he must retire from in-ring competition. And first off, you have the problem that why not make it career versus career? Because people know this is Batista's swan song as well, not just Angle's. And two, why are they continuing going with the if Triple H loses, he must retire from in-ring competition angle? They always use the Triple H loses, he must retire, and people know, no, you won't. You're a part of the McMahon family. We know you're going to be wrestling at WrestleMania until you drop dead. Don't give us this, you must retire from in-ring competition. We know you're going to win if you do that. And if you must do it like that to put some stakes to it, why not be creative with it? Why not give us something ballsy like Triple H says, if I lose this match, I'm giving up control of NXT. Give us a stipulation that people would be freaking out about if he lost. Something like that, where everybody's saying,
if Triple H beats Batista, he gets to become Drax.
Exactly. Something.
Oh. Well, actually, wasn't Drax one of the people who got snapped?
Well, yeah, he was, but at the same time, Drax is presumably going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so that doesn't help things either. But
yeah. Well, they even got James Gunn for that.
Yeah. So it's going to be
basically, fuck you, Mike Cernovich.
Yes. Remember, kids, cancel culture can only be used by people whining about people on the right side of history. Because we remind you, you are the worst thing you've ever done in your life. That's all you are, and that's all you ever will be. But still, it's going to be like weird on this one because we know Triple H is going to win because of this angle, and It just doesn't make sense. If you're going to use loser must retire, do something with Triple H matches where people think there's some more stakes to it. Like, again, have Triple H, if he loses, he has to sell all his stock and leave the WWE for good. If Triple H loses, he has to close down NXT. Something that you're doing the same, this is never going to happen in a million years storyline as Triple H loses, he must retire, but you've got something that would have fans freaking out about it. They would think, well, it's not going to happen. But what if it does? Oh, shit, we'd be screwed there. Because ultimately, fans want Triple H to retire from in-ring competition just to focus on being the head of NXT and giving us great NXT programming. So if Triple H retired, that'd be a stone groove to the fans. So you can't use that for a angle where he's the babyface anymore. Any other thoughts?
I mean, it's Drax versus Jarko Grimwood, so
yeah.
I don't know how many people actually remember Triple H's little sojourn into Marvel films. Of course, that was before the cinematic universe was really a thing, but he was one of the bad guys in Blade Trinity.
Yes, but it's also good on this one with all their great acting since then. You've got Batista, who's good as that one really buff henchman who can carry a scene or two and he'll be a good mid-boss for the hero to fight, versus Triple H, the guy who once had some bad trouble and got into prison, but now he's trying to make a good life for himself and is trying to be an honest man who's dragged back into it by his old friends. Those are some really, really specific typecasting that both guys have. And it just doesn't work that way for it, so. But yeah, ultimately I'm thinking Triple H is totally winning this. You guys?
Yeah, I think Triple H wins here as well.
Yeah.
And now we get to the three big ones. The Universal Championship is on the line as Brock Lesnar takes on Seth Rollins. And this is going to be a question mark here because this is another should but will win. Should win Seth Rollins because they need the Raw title back on this one. Will win Brock Lesnar. And it will probably be will win Brock Lesnar after Seth. And then afterwards, Roman Reigns cashes in his Brother in the Bank briefcase and kick, wham, spear. Roman Reigns is champion again.
I hope to God that Seth Rollins wins.
Yes.
For a couple of reasons. One, I am so sick of Brock Lesnar as champion. I'm sick of Brock Lesnar in general, but as Universal Champion especially. And Seth, if he loses, he is going to look like such a joke. Because his whole thing during this storyline is him wanting to bring the title back to Raw. Him losing is going to be such a joke. But at the same time, I can easily see them having Brock retain. Because at this point, I'm so used to them having Brock win all the time. Mm-hmm. But I really hope that Seth wins.
Yeah. Honestly, I would agree on this one. And everything you said is true for why Seth Rollins should win. But honestly, I'd go with, if you had to pick one of the three big matches and one of these people is going to lose the match, but the other two will win their title and win the match, you got to pick Rollins here for one because the other two are just too hot for it to not go with a happy ending there. And on the other side, I just don't trust Vince any more than I can throw him. And it just seems like the end game would be if Roman was still out battling leukemia, then Rollins would win the title here. But I just don't think that the answer will be we're going to have Rollins lose so that Roman Reigns can beat Brock Lesnar again. And honestly, that's really the big problem here, where I would want Seth Rollins to win, but for some reason I think that Roman's going to be the one to beat Lesnar, and it's not going to work. It never did, it never will, and it'll just be even worse for it. You guys?
Like I want to say that Seth Rollins is going to win it. I want to say that. But like you said, we can never be sure with this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ultimately, I'm still thinking same one for most of the big ones. Should win, Rollins. Will win, Lesnar. But please prove me wrong. Then we've got the match that has become the main event every so often on this one. As the WWE Championship is on the line, as Kofi Kingston takes on the new Daniel Bryan. And this match and this storyline has been done perfectly. Just 6 weeks ago, he was just a tag wrestler, and now Kofi Kingston looks to be one of a few men to win their first world title at WrestleMania, and everybody is on his side for this one. This is just a masterpiece of booking. It's just time for Bryan to lose the title. Whether it's to send him to Raw or not on this one is the question, but it's the right time. Kofi as the champion is just right for right now. And I don't... Any thoughts otherwise from either of you?
Yeah, I think Kofi wins. I mean, there's really no reason for him not to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This seems like a WrestleMania 19 moment on. With WrestleMania 19, there was the question mark because, at the very least, Booker T was... The storyline was terrible at 19, but Booker T just wasn't ready for the title then. He was coming off of a 2002 where he was as part of an outright comedy fit group. And not like the New Day can be funny, but they're not really comedy either because you always took the New Day seriously. Booker T and Goldust was a fucking comedy act, and there was no way around it.
You also have to remember WrestleMania X8, his match against Edge over a shampoo commercial.
Yes. This is not the type of guy who's ready for a world title match at WrestleMania. And so you have the question, it may have been bad, and once they brought the race into the storyline, Booker, they had to say, you just done goofed. Booker T must win now, and if you don't win, you probably fucked up for good. And it seems like that one. But with how it's gone right now and how the fans are universally behind him, how they're ready for it, how it's built, how people are longing for it to happen, it's safe to say, flat out, if Kofi Kingston does not win the title on Sunday, WWE is a racist promotion. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Don't at me. It's pretty much there. Because right now, Kofi's ready for the championship, and it's indispensable. Heck, you can make a strong case that Booker T not winning the title at WrestleMania 19 hobbled him because we're in a point where black culture is youth culture right now, and if you did something like that to Booker T, you can see people saying, fuck you, I'm not listening to you until you do right by us. And with this one, this is your chance to do right by people. This is your chance to exorcise that demon forever. And if you don't do it, you've just cobbled it so that you'll never get black fans' trust again. You need to make the change right here. If they're still questioning if Bryan Kofi goes in, if one of the WWE people is one of the 7 listeners, I implore you, make this change or risk your career. The WWE dying as our generation dies for good. Any other thoughts?
Just one. East Rutherford, New Jersey, Don't you dare be sour. Clap your hands for your next WWE champion and feel the power.
Yes. And now we go for the big one. Winner takes all triple threat match. Raw and SmackDown women's titles on the line. Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch. And it's going to be the main event for the first time in women's wrestling history. And honestly, this is going to be a question mark. I'm not sure about the Asuka versus Asuka claims on it, where people took the SmackDown title and whined, but Asuka, what about her? When it's like, Becky Lynch is the person who's got the hot hand. She's got the conch shell. Asuka was cooled off as champion and didn't have anything on it. And even if it was Asuka on this one, I feel far more hurt for Fire and Desire, because it should have been Sonya Deville finally toppling Asuka to win the title. That is who you should feel for more than Asuka in this situation. But ultimately, with this one, it's going to be the question mark of what they do on this. I've seen a lot of questions of whether it would be both of them, how they do this. Personally, given how the SmackDown Women's title became the B title on it, I'd say that they should unify these titles, make a mid-card women's title, and please, for the love of God, when you unify these titles, do what you should have done 3 years ago. Declare it the World Women's Championship. That 3 years ago, when they had their match with Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha for the women's title, they did almost everything right, but they didn't give it that one word. They did the civil unions instead of gay weddings thing there, where, yes, you get all the same rights with a civil union, but you don't get that one word of marriage to say you're married to your partner, and eventually that one word made all the difference. That's the same thing here, where they've done everything right with the women's evolution to get us to this point, but that one word means so much. So that when, inevitably, I'm assuming Becky Lynch, but it could be Charlotte Flair or Ronda Rousey, not bloody likely, hopefully, but should, when they win this, they can hold aloft the belt and say they are the first female world champion in wrestling history. Something that was never done by a major promotion for their titles, with a major women's title. Even the big independent promotions, even the big Joshi promotions don't declare their top title the world title. The last company that even thought our title, women's title, is a world championship was AWA in the 80s, which is not very good for these things. If you're going to unify the titles, it's time. Make them unified, declare it the World Women's Championship, and let's have the end of this show be Becky Lynch standing aloft as the first world champion to be a woman, and the show ends. That is what you need to do with this match.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I have nothing to add to that.
Mm-hmm. And you, Matt?
I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about this match because Becky Lynch is my current favorite wrestler in WWE, so I'm really excited to see her finally main event WrestleMania. But at the same time, I hope to God that she wins. But I'm not holding my breath because there have been so many times where she should have won and didn't. WrestleMania 32, she should have won, didn't happen. WrestleMania 33, she should have won, didn't happen. SummerSlam last year, should have won, didn't happen. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not holding my breath. I could easily see them doing Ronda or Charlotte just for the hell of doing it. But I really hope that Becky wins. because I mean she definitely deserves to be the first ever undisputed women's champion when she beat both Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair on the same night.
Yes, and ultimately that's where I'm still. It's less cautiously optimistic as much as the fact that I think it's pretty clear that right now the triple match threat match seemed to be that Rousey refused to job to Becky, and ultimately that's why I'm most concerned on it. That I think this is going to be Becky pins Charlotte and Rousey doesn't get pinned, but I think that this is one of the reasons why Charlotte Flair was in this match. Yes, if you get too guarded with yourself on it, eventually it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's been the problems for the last 5 years in wrestling, where there were all these people that fans gave their hearts to. Sami Zayn, Bayley, Sasha Banks, all these big stars that fans gave their hearts to for a little bit, but ultimately they didn't. They were too guarded. They blinked first. They were so afraid the other shoe's going to drop. The other shoe's going to drop, and my favorite's going to be a jobber, and then I'm going to be sad. And eventually, when you're that guarded, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You didn't give your heart to your favorite, and so the other shoe dropped, and they did become a jobber, and you were unhappy. And right now, I think that that's why Charlotte Flair is in this match. Every fan of Becky Lynch was guarded for most of this time period that the other shoe's gonna drop. Charlotte's gonna beat Becky, and Charlotte will be the face of the company again, and Becky will be a jobber. And they did it so much they had to make that the story of Charlotte getting in the match. And that's why there's no way Becky Lynch isn't losing this match, because that was another thing of adversity to tell people it's okay. The other shoe dropped, and Becky Lynch is still the star of this company. It's not going to drop anymore. She's safe. Your favorite is now a top star. You can trust us. And so,
if Becky wins, she needs to beat Ronda.
I agree.
Because regardless of whether or not Ronda goes on hiatus afterwards, it's time for Ronda to take a loss. Yeah. She can't stay undefeated forever.
Yeah. And honestly, that's the biggest concern on this one, because it does seem like the big weakness is that Becky's Twitter game was too good and it worked Ronda into a shoot. And given everything we've seen, it does seem likely that it was. Rousey said, if you don't make Becky Lynch lay off me on Twitter, then I'm going to refuse to job to her. And ultimately, I think that's going to be the question mark there, because ultimately Becky's Twitter game is good, but she's bitten off a little bit more than she could chew. She was too scattershot beforehand. Now that she's on Rousey specifically, she got so much in it that it's made Rousey catch hurt feelings, and you don't really want to do that either, so. But ultimately, I do think, yeah, Becky's absolutely winning this match, so it's going to be all right. As of Sunday, Becky will be anointed as the man. Any other thoughts? Well, if that's the case, then this was Whacked Out Wrestling for this week, and we'll see you next week as the season premiere and Smarkamania happens, so we get to see all the new things that happen after this show. Until then, I'm Thomas S.K. Green. With me was John Roche, and we thank our guest, Metal Matt. You can hear him on his podcasts every so often. Which ones are they again?
Ruthless Aggression Era podcast. It's usually on Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central. I haven't really been able to do it much lately due to my work schedule, but hopefully sooner rather than later I'll be able to get out a steady schedule for it.
Yep, and he's also on Violent Wrestling Podcast many times with our other guest, the OG of Whacked Out Wrestling, Prince Moxley Lopez. So until then, we'll see you next week.